Google Marketing Workflow workshop. So make sure you're in the right place. There's another workshop right now also for career advancement. So don't jump ship, but in case you want to. So this is Dave Olsen. He's been a marketing technologist with University Relations Digital Services Unit at West Virginia University for the last 16 years. During that time, he's worked on and led projects that range from developing a university-wide CMS to creating award-winning marketing websites. For the last 3 years, he has focused on developing and tracking enrollments, digital presence, and communications. In addition to his work here at WVU, he has released and contributed to a number of open source projects, the most recent being Pattern Lab. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erica. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'm really glad no one got up and left, that they weren't in the right room. Again, my name is Dave Olsen. I've been doing a lot of communications things. I'm basically a technical guy who's now getting into comms. So hopefully I can learn as much from you guys as I can teach you all today. So if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hands. Go, hey, how would I think about doing this? I might not have your answer, but hopefully I can help you out. So my day-to-day is not in analytics. My day-to-day is not in Data Studio or Tag Manager or any of that kind of stuff. So what I'm hopefully giving you are tips to help you get your job done, because it's helping me get my job done, because I got a lot of other things to do of corralling content and getting people to give me stuff for emails and getting emails out, or whatever the case may be. So hopefully this is useful from that scenario of being relevant to you all. So if you want to follow along, you don't have to follow along. I think I'll give some good examples as we do this. Make sure you have a Gmail account, because you got to be able to log into Google services. Make sure you have Chrome. One of the demos at the end, or in the middle, sorry, definitely requires Chrome. I don't know why. Google's not supporting other browsers. It doesn't work for me in Safari. It might work in IE or whatever on Windows. But definitely works on Chrome. Do you have a Google Analytics account to play around with? It's kind of an obvious one. So if you do, can you make sure and log in now? How many people are actually going to try to follow along on their computer, just so I know roughly? 1, 2, 3, 4. OK. Thank you. So my goal today is to try to move beyond the idea of vanity metrics. A lot of what we do, and a lot of, honestly, what I still report on to my management are really vanity metrics. It's page views, it's sessions, it's users. Yay, we have all these people. That doesn't actually help you achieve your day-to-day goals or what your business is trying to achieve. They really are useless in aggregate. Again, they feel good. I will definitely go into Search Console and say we have 1 million more impressions this year than we had last year, and I'll tell that to my management. The key for me to kind of understand, though, in moving forward and doing my content is what actually moved the needle to get 1 million more impressions. So trying to dig deep. That's what we're going to try to do today, is start digging into how can you find out those little details, those little nuggets that are going to help you move your business. So definitely tie analytics to goals and look at those, the details that will help figure out those things. So give folks a second. Take your time. No, you're good. It's great to pick up newbies. So basically that first slide basically said if you want to log into your Google account, if you're going to do it, if you're going to try to follow along with the workshop, please do so now. So this workflow idea is basically combining 3 different tools from Google. The first is Tag Manager. And what Tag Manager lets you do is essentially capture data. People visiting your website, it's capturing the data for you. What people are doing on the website, what actions they're taking, what they're clicking on. You can use Tag Manager to record all that stuff. Google Analytics is really about storing the data, right? It gives you a dashboard to go look into all the details that you've recorded with Tag Manager. And it's really good. You're obviously looking for page views, but it's relatively simplistic in terms of just looking at that particular piece of data that you're storing with Tag Manager. And the third piece is Data Studio. So what Data Studio lets you do is to take not just the data out of Google Analytics, but stuff out of Bing or out of Facebook ads or wherever the Google ads, wherever the case may be, and put it all into one report, be able to set up a really nice dashboard, and then share that with your management. So you have Tag Manager, which is recording information on your website. It allows you to add these third parties, which are also recording data. Google Analytics will report basically on web traffic. It's relatively simplistic in that way, and maybe actions that are being recorded with events. And then Data Studio lets you build that dashboard from all these multiple sources and share it out with management. So that's the idea of trying to build this cohesive workflow with these three tools today. So in order to use these tools to report on things, one of the things you need to determine is what are your goals that your business has. Because analytics without goals and without understanding what you're trying to measure doesn't help you. So we have goals, and then we figure out what our strategies are that are going to help you achieve those goals, the tactics that advance those strategies, and then finally the measurements that help us validate tactics and prove we're achieving those goals. So this seems like super 101, but so much of when I'm dealing with people, they just want to know what's that number, what's this number, what's that number. Does that actually mean anything without knowing what you're trying to achieve? This is by far my number one complaint. I was actually complaining about this before we started. Like, I never get goals. And that's the reality, is no one actually gives me a goal and says, hey, in the next year, we're going to try to achieve X. How do we get to there? So hopefully, this can give you some helpful hints for trying to tease out goals from people. So an example of a goal would be, for us, increase applications for Program A by 5% year to year. Right? So at West Virginia University, we're trying to increase enrollment. So our strategy would be to highlight Program A on social media, and the tactic would be tweet about Program A and highlight different aspects of the program to see which one resonates. Because we can go down and see which one actually matters to a student, and then reuse that kind of content in other programs or wherever the case may be. So this is a goal, strategy, and tactic, right? This is what we're going to do. And the key thing for today is how are we actually going to measure those tactics to prove that we're achieving the strategy and the goal. So I think there are three different ways to approach looking at analytics and where you essentially start with using analytics to prove how your tactics are working. So the first level will be like kind of like a simple thing is page views using a segment. Are we seeing increased page views because of social media? So social media would be the segment of looking at your data and analytics. And just a really simple, it's not quite vanity metric, but it's close to being a vanity metric. Is that moving up? Next level in terms of using analytics would be tracking individual tweets using campaign parameters. So you can add all those UTM little codes, right, to the end of the link and see which tweets actually resonated with the user. And look at individual tweets. How many people use campaign parameters on social media or email or any platform? Okay. That's like the number one thing you can do in terms of your marketing efforts. Start tracking all the things and thinking about how you track all the things. Having this disconnect between the tactics that we actually do, we're sending a tweet, and what we're seeing on the website, that's a kind of a problem. So number one thing, if you can walk away with anything to learn today, is campaign parameters and put it on everything. And then deep cuts would be to go see if people submitted requests for informations or applications using direct or assisted conversions. So this requires us to set up goals in Google Analytics so we can actually track conversions. So somebody tweeted, they went through the link, and they ended up on the website and doing something. If they go right from the tweet to that conversion, they do a request for information. That's called a direct conversion, right? They went in a direct path. Google Analytics lets you look, though, and say that a person looked at your tweet 30 days ago, and they came back to your RFI today. The tweet gets an assisted conversion, right? You can see it. These different touches added up to a final conversion, which is kind of cool. We'll go through that later. So how do we determine what to measure? This is just kind of a simple overview for me, setting up goals, using strengths and weaknesses. You want to think about who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, and what you're talking about. It's a big mix. So this is just, I don't expect you to fill anything out, but this is something if you can go back with your management and start sitting down and just do a really simple SWOT chart and go, what are we good at? What are we not good at? What do people internally think we're good at? And how does that actually match up to what we want to message? Like, do we have this disconnect between program A is really a crap program, and we're going to try to, can we really message a crap program? If you may want to increase it by 5%, but maybe there's a reason why. There's a problem with enrollment in the first place. And there's nothing that marketing can do to help a crap program. If this is, it's a lovely world of this disconnect between marketing and academics, where lipstick on a pig, it just does not work. Yeah, one of the fun things is you can measure this as much as you want, but if people aren't really interested in it, then it won't matter either. So really think about what your goals are and the realistic aspect of the goals. So I was thinking this morning, I have to do a talk next Tuesday to my upper management about an idea for digital advertising, and thinking about this idea of the goal structure. How can I put this into my presentation, yada, yada, yada. And realize what I was missing was the because. Because we're good at, or like setting the context for them. So I think that's one of the things the SWOT does, is gives you kind of the context for why you're going to achieve a goal, or where you're going to be at. So we have a bunch of questions to ask. Again, we're going to share this after the talk, so don't worry about, well, no one has a phone up. Oh, one person has a phone up. So we'll share this after the talk so you can have it. This comes from a workshop done by Vision Point Marketing. I think they have some of their materials online, so if you want to Google them, they do have some really good details up for how to kind of go through this process of figuring out what your goals are for your organization. And these are things that your upper management should be answering, right? This isn't for the frontline people to go, we think we're good at. Upper management really has to embrace this and understand what they're trying to get the frontline folks to achieve. So there's SWOT, which is strengths and weaknesses, and there's also goals, which may not fall into that. So here, President Gee may have a certain goal in mind. He wants to recruit more students from Texas. May not necessarily be a reason for that, but that's what he wants to do, and that's what we're going to try to do. So there may be goals outside of the strengths and weaknesses chart that you're going to have to address. Again, are there measurable goals in your strategic plan? Can you look through that and find things? And in qualitative goals, yada, yada, yada. So for us, we're trying to think about also the when. So there's goals that you have, and when does it make sense to try to achieve those goals? So we have an enrollment funnel on the left, which is kind of our traditional thing in higher education. We have the unknowns, people who silently are interested in WVU. We have people who have expressed an interest in us, that's an inquiry. And we have people who have applied to us. And that's kind of the first goal that we want people to do, is to apply, right? They've shown a certain level of interest. Then we admit them, and then we're trying to get them through the rest of the funnel to actually convert and be enrolled on campus. So we sort of have two different conversions for higher education. We have get somebody to apply and get somebody to enroll. It's actually, so if you apply it to a sales funnel, which I think is a really handy way of thinking about what your messaging is going to be, we have awareness and attract, nurture, and convert on the top. And then basically we have convert, we want to get somebody to deposit, and then we're going to nurture them through the deposit to being enrolled. And if we lay this out on a chart, this is the way it looks. But I think, again, it's an interesting way of thinking about what your messaging is going to be and how it aligns with your goals. So let's think about defining a goal. Because again, management's going to have goals. You're going to have something come out of SWOT. Now you have to start thinking about how you're going to measure it. So because we know or think something, right, we have a goal of X, and then which we will measure by Y. Oops, I thought I had a better example, but I guess I didn't. So again, because we know or think that enrollment is down in a program, we have a goal of increasing enrollment in the program. and which we will measure by increased applications, which we hope will end up being increased enrollment. It's really simple. It's a really simple example. So why are setting up these goals important, especially for analytics, beyond doing segmentation and all that kind of stuff? It means we can track web activity, conversions that matter to our business. And then we can use that activity in other platforms like Google Ads to improve performance of ads and focus ad spend dollars on good targets. So we can take a conversion of a request for information that somebody did that, feed that into Google Ads, and if they had come through Google Ads, now Google Ads is going to do a lot better targeting for future prospects coming through those clicks, so you have better and better possibility of somebody doing a request for information. So setting up these goals and these conversions in one platform is going to help you on multiple platforms. So thinking about goals for your business help you think about goals that actually are going to make a bottom dollar difference for you. We're running a Google Ads campaign thing now, and based on the sort of feedback, our cost per click has gone down by $1 just within a couple of weeks. So having this data available to Google Ads makes a really huge difference. So spending the time to come up with your goals, understanding what web activity on your website affects those goals will help you in other platforms. Definitely keep your goals simple. Don't try to measure all the things at once. That's why I was kind of giving that level, right? You have a simple and a next level and a deep cut. As you start doing this process, think about a few goals that you want to manage and think about the simple way to do it. Get used to that, get used to reporting on that, and then kind of expand it. So you don't be all overwhelmed. Like if you sat down with your computer and like, I'm going to track all the things today, you're going to give up and be like, yeah, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. So just start small and get bigger. This is my example. So increase applications, highlight program A, tweet about program A. I think I already had this. I must have duplicated it. So exercise time. Take a few minutes to develop a list of goals for your company. List high-level strategies and tactics and how you might measure them. What I'd like to do is share them in 10 minutes. The idea of this entire process is to get these kind of goals down, and then as you go through Google Analytics and Tag Manager, we'll use these goals to show you how you can track things on the website. So like on Tag Manager, what activities support these goals? What should we track with Tag Manager? When we go into analytics, what reports should we be showing? What kind of segments should we be showing that might highlight what's going on in these goals? So it's important that you think about what goals you might have so that we can, as you go throughout the rest of this product, kind of relate it, rest of the workshop. So it'll give you about 5 or 10 minutes to think about that. You can work together, that's fine. Make some noise. I'll give you a 5-minute countdown. Yeah, yep. Get used to that. Yeah. I'm going to call on you, Cole, so you better be ready. I'm going to call on you, so you better be ready. Give you one more minute, and then we'll. Okay, pencils down. Okay, so does anyone want to share their goals for their business or organization? Want to jump in so I can think about these ideas as we go through analytics? Oh, okay. Yes, okay.
We'd like to have a younger demographic visiting our website.
Okay. Because?
Because primarily faculty are the ones that visit our website currently.
Gotcha, okay.
Opposed to people who are actually
Gotcha. Okay. So which site is that? Davis College, okay, there we go. Okay, so there we have a good example to think about as we go through the rest of these goals is Davis College with looking at demographics. So now that we have our set of goals, we can start looking at the tools individually and see how can we implement them to help us achieve these goals. So why should we use these set of tools? The first thing is that they're connected. And they're connected not only to each other, but they're connected to a lot of other services. Google is slowly eating the world, unfortunately. And honestly, I feel it sucks that you have to be in the Google realm for certain things to get things done. But like if you want SEO and you want organic traffic, that's where you gotta be. So using the connected tools, again, feeds back to Google AdWords, Search Console, which feeds back into all the other things. You can connect, though, again, with Bing, with Facebook ads, with a bunch of other different services to pull in data and aggregate data. It's really customizable, all these platforms, all these different tools. You can kind of go in, use a web interface, and do all the things you need to do. You don't have to be a complete geek to make these things work. That doesn't mean it doesn't take time and a little bit of experience to do it. But you definitely could do it on your own and kind of point and click your way to things. And I definitely like to point and click. I'm getting tired of geeking on things. And they are free to you, not necessarily free to your users, but for the most part, free to you. Definitely easy to track and report goal conversions across multiple channels. This is a big one for me. Right? I can go look to see how different channels are actually interacting with one another and are they achieving the thing that we're trying to do. It's not that I haven't seen it anywhere else. Google Analytics just makes it super easy to do. So we can see how email's working versus direct traffic versus social media, and what's actually helping and what's not helping at all. And these three products become a foundation for future efforts. So again, expanding this tracking and reporting to Google Ads. For me, that's the big one, right? That you can feed all this data back into Google Ads, which makes your buys that much better. So you're saving money. Really, you're just spending more money, but hopefully on better clicks. You know, you're still you're not spending more money. You're still going to spend the same amount of money. It's just hopefully you're getting more clicks or better clicks through to your content, right? So somebody can actually take advantage of it. So the first tool we're going to look at is Tag Manager. It's a free tool that consolidates your website tags with one little snippet of code. So you ask IT or whomever, or you go to WordPress and you get the plugin, Drupal, add it to a template. You plug in this one bit of code, and then the rest of your management of adding tags like Facebook Pixel or Twitter, whatever, I have no idea what it is. It's just a matter of going to this web interface, and you, as the marketing person, as the communication person, manage it all yourself. You're not saying every 5 days going back to IT, hey, we just went on to this other platform because manager A wants to use this shiny new thing. Now we have to add another tracking pixel. You can go in yourself and take care of all this stuff, and saving time and effort for everybody. Does everybody understand what a tag is? Yes? No? Okay. Maybe. Okay, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But oops, I skipped a slide. Google Analytics is a web analytics service offered. Who doesn't know what Google Analytics is? That seems like it would be a core one that everyone should know what Google Analytics is. And then Data Studio, which is like the new kid on the block. Data Studio, relatively new kid on the block. It's been around for a couple of years now, but I feel like no one really knows about it. It's basically a reporting dashboard tool, right? It's a little like WYSIWYG, go select data, bring it in. Kind of looks like it's not Tableau. It's not nearly as powerful as Tableau, but it's the same kind of idea, right? You want to create a dashboard so that you can share reports. And the great thing about Data Studio is that it's a dashboard that, again, pulls in data from different sources. Google Analytics can only create a dashboard that's Google Analytics. So again, Tag Manager makes it easy to track all the things. Google Analytics are where all the things are stored. Data Studio is where our insights based on all the things, that's where we share with others. So let's get into Tag Manager. So we basically add one tag and manage all the others via the web. So what a tag is, let's see if I talked about a tag. Tag is basically a little bit of HTML code. So in the case of Facebook Pixel, it's not really a pixel actually, it's a bit of JavaScript code, right? You can place on your page. The script or the image tag is what they mean when they say tag, right? Is that little bit of JavaScript or an image tag that you're going to pop in. One of the nice things about using Tag Manager is their pre-built configurations. Various companies have gone out and built your ultimate Google Tag Manager setup so you can kind of hit the ground running. That's one of the things we're going to do today is install a boilerplate from Bounteous, which you can track all the things. So it lets you track file downloads, which you can't normally do with Google Analytics. Clicks on telephone numbers, how long people watch videos, all that kind of data that maybe you're not getting right now out of pure Google Analytics. With Tag Manager and using this boilerplate, you're going to turn it on and you're getting all this great data. File downloads to me are especially important one that you don't get out of Google Analytics, right? So somebody's downloading this PDF, wherever the case may be. It's really compatible with a lot of different products. So they already have pre-built tags, so you don't have to actually install anything. You're just copying in your little bit of code. Services like Hotjar, Crazy Egg, LinkedIn. Facebook is not among them. Surprise, Facebook and Google. But it's really easy, and one of our examples will be installing Facebook Pixel and installing a conversion tag. So hopefully that can get you up and running with tracking your Facebook stuff. So that's feeding all the data back to Facebook ads, right? Where everybody wants to be. It has a preview mode, so you can see if their changes are going to actually work, because you don't want to lose data if you screw something up. And it has conversion tracking. Again, events and selectors allow for really granular conversion tracking. So we can say, this click on this page is really important to us. That's what we want to track. And it becomes as easy. It's not point and click, but it's pretty close. So again, if you're going to follow along, Make sure you have the following. This is a bit.ly link, so the important part is the part that's in gold there. You can download the complete pack for Google Tag Manager. And if you can go find your property tracking ID in Google Analytics. So I'll leave that up for a minute. Yes, sir. Yeah, you have the presentation. Yep, totally. Yep. So the goal of this exercise is to set up Tag Manager with Google Analytics and some of these extra goodies from this boilerplate. And these are the steps that we're actually going to do. We're going to set up an account, create a new container, import the boilerplate, update the tracking ID, and publish. And then think about finding the code to put on our site. So this is the fun part of a presentation that involves a demo. We'll see how it goes. So essentially, you're going to be seeing a lot of production stuff for us. So this is our production. Graduate admissions is up there. This is our production stuff for Tag Manager. Oops, this is tags. We're actually already in. Oops. So here's our accounts. So we have an account. An account is kind of a weird concept to me in Tag Manager. Basically, it holds a bunch of different containers. And at least in our scenario, we relate the containers to a website. So you probably end up having an account, and then having a container is basically the exact same name if you're basically, I don't know if you're an agency or not. So if you were like Davis, for example, in this scenario, and you're going to set up Tag Manager on your own, you would set up an account for Davis, and then you'd set up a container saying davis.w.edu. So we can go ahead and we're going to create a test account just so you can see what this looks like when you set it up. You can share data if you want. We're going to set it up on the web, and I'm just going to keep using Davis, okay? This doesn't affect you in any way. You can go back and do it again. Oh, whoops. Container name is not the URL. Okay. So we're going to set this up for Davis. We're going to say we're going to use this container on the web. You can actually use Tag Manager on a whole bunch of different platforms. I'm assuming we're all on the web, right? I'm all on the web. I would have no idea how to use the iOS or Android version or AMP. Yay, I accept. Because what else are you going to do? Okay. So they're getting a little bit ahead of themselves by trying to give you the code up front. You don't actually want to copy out the code yet. It doesn't really help you right now because your service doesn't do anything. You have a Tag Manager that's not actually going to load anything at all. If you publish this to your website right now, you'd be recording nothing. So instead, we want to go into the admin, and we have this import container. So we choose a container file. And so if you went to that Bounteous website, it gave you a page saying, hey, you can do all these wonderful things, download a JSON file. So you downloaded this JSON file. JSON file is like really ugly code. It's not really readable. But just make sure you know where you saved it. So now you would go ahead and open it. And basically, this has all the instructions and all the setup for Google Tag Manager. Again, it's a recipe, right? This is Google Tag Manager is going to be, oh, whoops. Yeah. So we're going to select our default workspace. We're going to overwrite it. And based on this thing, we're going to add 11 tags, 7 triggers, 34 variables, no templates, which is what we expect. Ooh. So now we have a bunch of stuff in here. So this is all the things that this stuff set up. And there's a bunch of things you will never, ever touch, never, ever need. Unfortunately, to get some of the things like YouTube tracking like really easy in one thing, you're going to get a bunch of cruft. So there's a bunch of stuff you can ignore, like all this DLV stuff. I don't understand what it is. I've never touched it. Doesn't hurt anything, so you can leave it there. But you can see we're going to do things like YouTube tracking. So it's going to track when somebody plays a video, how long they played a video for, And that's all going to be tracked in your analytics, in Google Analytics. So instead of having to go to YouTube and see how that video is doing or whatever, you can actually go into Google Analytics and track it. It will do scroll tracking, which sounded really cool when we installed it. You never actually look at it. The one nice thing about scroll tracking, though, is my understanding is if somebody starts scrolling the page and this event fires, Google takes that as somebody did an activity on your web page. So your bounce rates should go down if somebody actually starts scrolling. Not 100% positive on that. I've learned about it after we had done this, and so I never actually went back and looked. But that's one benefit of scroll tracking. In terms of trying to take this data and actually visualize it, or it doesn't really help, honestly. I would use a third-party service like a Hotjar or a Full Story to figure out how people are actually using your website in that terms of granularity. Click elements, a bunch of other stuff. So the first thing we want to do is go in and look at a variable. And this is the one thing you have to change. And I don't remember if I have this saved. I could open up Slack. Okay. So we replace this, and we hit save. And the next thing you have to do is you have to actually submit and publish what you're trying to do. So as you make changes to the container, as you add tags or whatever, you're not actually affecting the production site at all with Tag Manager. You're doing everything locally, essentially. So we'll do version 1.0, setting up. Give whatever details you want. But basically, as you make changes, you can preview them, and then once you're satisfied that these changes are working, you have to publish them. So we'll go ahead and publish. And then we go back into the admin. And now we're ready to install Google Tag Manager. Because essentially what you're going to do is swap out your current Google Analytics code for Tag Manager, right? Because this has Google Analytics set up inside of it. So you can copy this, and what you want to do is you're going to have to sit down with IT, or if you're yourself, just make sure at the same time you're in a template, you're swapping out, deleting Google Analytics, copying this in, and having at it. There's actually two bits that you copy in the top part, and you copy the bottom part. So where Google Analytics is one set of code, there's actually two. It's probably the only real trick to it. So that's setting up Google Analytics and Tag Manager with getting a whole bunch of goodies like tracking file downloads and all that kind of good stuff as events. Super simple. Oops. Okay. Oops. Some things to think about, though, when you're migrating from Google Analytics to Tag Manager. You definitely want to swap them out. You don't want to run them at the same time. Swapping or installation is dependent on your CMS. So you're going to have to think about what CMS you're using and look up the directions for your individual CMS. So at West Virginia University, we would go update some templates and be done with it. I'm not sure how it's going to work with whatever you all use. So in the case of Davis, you would work with your Prof Tech to update that stuff. And the next thing you want to do is to have real-time traffic up in Google Analytics to make sure that all the tracking is being caught, right? So have it up, have the real-time tracking up, right? As you start making this change, publish, and keep watching those things. As long as all the events keep firing, everything's good. If all of a sudden your traffic drops to nil, you have a problem. And then figure out how you back out of it or whatever. But don't just like publish and kind of cross your fingers and hope it works. There's a really clear way to figure out if it works or doesn't work. And that's to go look at the real-time tracking. And the other thing you can do is go see the events section and see if new events are being captured, so like scroll tracking. And the other thing I would recommend is don't do this on a Friday afternoon. Never publish anything on a Friday afternoon. Unless it's a story you want to bury, then you publish on a Friday But yeah, definitely do not do anything on a Friday afternoon if you can avoid it. Because you're guaranteed to have a problem, and then you're trying to fix it at 6. Yes, ma'am.
So we set up our own tags, but we also work with a third party who is doing some marketing for us if they have tags. How does that work?
Okay, so the question was, how do we work with tags that are being run by a third party and us? So for what we would do is we would try to, as the university, or in your case, the college, have tag manager, and then ask the vendor to give us the tags that you want to have installed in our thing, and we'll install them for the length of that contract. And then when that contract is up, you can hit pause. And that way you know everything's being tracked or what's not being tracked. It's a little bit of coordination with the vendor, but that way you all have control over what's going on. And you're making sure you're recording all the data. So yeah, in that scenario, you can ask them for the tags and pop them in. Any other questions? Okay. So again, some of the tag manager basics. Tags are segments of code provided by analytics, marketing, and support vendors. They basically just give you some HTML, like, please install this. Okay. I go ahead and I install it. That's all I gotta do. So that's a tag. A trigger is what fires a tag. This is why the tag should actually be invoked, right? This is why the conversion or whatever the case may be. So triggers listen for events that are happening on a website. So somebody clicked the link, they submitted a form, they started going through a form, whatever the case may be. And then variables. So to computer program a variable is a symbol in code, yada, yada, yada. I almost never use variables, so I don't think in regular use anybody's going to really use variables. So the tag manager basics. So when you hit new tag, this is what you get. This is what the tag type is. That's what a variable looks like, and that's what a trigger looks like. That's kind of the layout within Tag Manager. Again, tags can track things more than just page views. So you can form submissions or clicks on specific links. So this is an example of tracking a click on the internal application for WVU on admissions. Right? So we know when somebody actually clicks that link, they go to first-time freshman. We record that as a first-time freshman click. One of the issues that we have at West Virginia University in terms of tracking conversions is that I don't have access to all the things where the conversion actually happens. So in the case of the application, I don't have analytics on the applications. A product called TargetX, we can't put it there. So I don't know that somebody actually submitted the application all the way through. So we use kind of a proxy. We know that somebody clicked from admissions towards the application, and we sort of count that as a conversion. I know it's not really a conversion, but it's the closest you can get, right? So you can use proxies. If you can't get the exact thing, find some proxies for tracking. Tracking links works best with a selector. Instead of kind of the way I had the other one set up. So other things that you can do with Tag Manager, you can track what's submitted in a form submission. So in a search field, you can actually track that in Google Analytics and pop that text in Google Analytics. So if you want to go back through and see what people are searching for, that's a great way to find out. You can see form abandonment. People got so many questions in and they decided to give up. So is your request for information form too long? Invariably it is, and unfortunately they have to be long. Again, you can add Google Ads conversions, Google Ads remarketing tags. So if somebody visits your website and you want them to receive your ad in the future, Tag Manager is a really great way of adding that remarketing tag. You can determine load JavaScript only on certain pages. So for us, we load chat only on the how to apply pages. We don't load it on all the pages on admissions. So Tag Managers are a great way of inserting that, entering that code in once, saying only on this page, load this thing, good to go. Don't take 10 minutes, but I don't know, not many people have their computers up, so this kind of is a pointless exercise. But you can think about triggers that might help you track your goals when using conversions. So the next exercise would be adding Facebook Pixel to your site using Tag Manager and also adding conversion tracking with Facebook Pixel. So all we're really going to do is add a Facebook Pixel tag and create a Facebook conversion tracking tag. I'm giving away. Okay. So we have our workspace, right? And we're going to add a new tag. We're going to name the tag Facebook Pixel. Definitely encourage you to, so you can put your tags and variables and triggers all in one folder. That way, if you have to go back and look at it, you can. So in this case, it's going to be custom HTML because Facebook doesn't have, they don't play nice with each other. So this is what a Facebook pixel code looks like, right? It's that script tag. You paste that in. We determine when we want it to trigger. And there's a whole bunch of triggers here, right? All different things that can happen that can cause this tag to fire. In our case, we want to fire it on all pages. We hit save. You've essentially just added Facebook pixel tracking, right? You didn't involve IT at all. Hit publish, and it's all done. But we also want to track, a conversion. I'll put that in here. So again, a lot of featured things that you can use with the case of this one. And this is the scenario. When the vendor gives you a tag, you're probably going to go to custom HTML and drop in whatever they give you. So this is a little script tag that tracks when somebody clicks the WView application. It gets saved as a conversion. That way, when we have Facebook ads up, again, the conversions feed back and starts identifying which users are more likely to convert. So we'll save that. Oops. That trigger. So in this scenario, we only want this event to fire, this conversion event to fire, when somebody's on the how to apply first-time freshman page and when they click a link to the Common App. So we select a click, just links, and obviously we only want it to do on some links. So you can go through and you can set a page URL. Contains how to apply, and the click URL. So if you just went onto your website, right, and you copied, right-click, copy this link. That's all you're doing right here, popping that in, right? I was on this page, copy this link in, set up the trigger. So there we go. So now we're tracking conversions for Facebook ads. And now we're hopefully spending money better than we were previously. And again, we have to go through, and if you're all set, say this is version 2.0. Facebook is awesome. Then we publish. Now it's live to the world, if I actually had it copied into a website. So that's adding Facebook Pixel, which I think a lot of people would want to do. And most importantly for Facebook is tracking conversions. We always want to be tracking conversions back into our ad platforms so that we're getting the most bang for their buck. If we just give them money, it doesn't work out well. Okay. Any questions about Tag Manager and how to use it? Does it look fairly straightforward? Go through and, again, select all the things. Record all the things, record all the data. We found it really, really useful. We have the major search on admissions.w.edu is all those keywords that people are typing in get fed into Google Analytics. We can export that, and then we start doing a report to see which programs are more popular than others. So you can do that for your search form on your website, right? What are people actually searching for? Am I really returning the right results? I can go pop that in myself. So you start seeing what somebody's trying to achieve and figure out if you're actually helping them or not. And that's beyond page views, right? If you just had page views, you saw somebody got to search, you don't actually know what they did. This starts giving you a way to recreate what somebody's doing. Now let's get into Google Analytics. So the basics of Google Analytics, again, we have an account idea, which is going to hold all your things. Then we have properties, views, reports, metrics, dimensions, and segments. So this is going from very broad to very granular in terms of the things that you can use within Google Analytics. So one of the basic things that you can do in Google Analytics is setting up a filtered view. So a filtered view is good when you routinely do research with certain segments, or there are things that you want to make sure that you standardize all the time. Because in the case of like UTM parameters, so you're setting up all those links, right? If you're in social media, giving it to somebody, they might use all uppercase for a campaign name, where you might use all lowercase. If you let that go and you don't account for it, your data gets messed up because you end up with two entries within Google Analytics, one for the uppercase version and one for the lowercase version. And then you can't accurately report on that. So a filtered view is a really great way of cleaning up that kind of data and or finding ways to report common criteria. One thing to note is that data is lost when using filters. So one of the first things that you should do when setting up Google Analytics and starting to mess around with filters is set up a view that is literally just unfiltered. So we'll do that as part of the setup here, but set it up as unfiltered. That way you know you have the rawest data you possibly can have as part of your profile. So if you have to go and compare, you could do that. So an example for us is we expanded admissions to multiple domains. We had explore.w.edu, which was a service on Instapage, which was essentially admissions. It's still enrollment. We wanted to report all that data together. So we added the host name to all those links, right? But that made year-to-year trends, which is one of my key things that I go look at, basically fall apart. Because now the two paths are completely different. So you needed that unfiltered view to kind of go and compare those two things. So things that you might want to do is remove internal traffic, have mobile traffic only. You can look at specific sections of a site and have that only in a view. Search engine traffic, which is a big one for me. SEO is a big one. Organic traffic is a really great measurement of how your brand is being, how aware people are of your brand. Like they're trying to find you or how helpful you can be. SEO is huge. So filters can be used, again, to standardize data, so it's easier to work with and report on. All of your views should have lowercase all this stuff. So that way, if you got to go report on it, you can see how things are working. So next exercise is to review account, property, and views, and learn how to modify a view so captured data is cleaner. So we're going to go open a profile. If you don't have one, you could do part of this. So this bit.ly link is to Google's demo. They have their merchandise store publicly available, the Google Analytics merchandise store publicly available. So you can go ahead and mess around with that, and you can use that as your default view if you don't want to use your own. You can't actually create views there, though. You can create segments and all sorts of other things we're doing today, but you can't actually create a view. So we'll go through and review the admin section, create an unfiltered view, a test view, and then add a filter to the test view. So we're done with Tag Manager. So this is what we're doing right now. There are 14 people on admissions.w.edu. And the admin has changed. It's down here on the left. So we have all these accounts holders. So we have all of our accounts, all of our properties are in it, like 25 account holders. This middle column is your actual website, right? With all the details. And this right column is views. So I think a lot of us, or I used to tend to just be in here, but using views. So if we create a view, I don't know if I can call it test view. One of the problems of views is if you delete them, they still somehow hang around. So I would like to be in Honolulu time. Detroit, there we go. So we create a view. It's as simple as that. There's now a view for you to go look at this data. And any changes that you're making here on this view aren't affecting any other views that you have. Oops. So let's go ahead and create a filter. So now we have filters. So what filters do is they change the data that's being recorded by the view, right? So if you go back and look at this view in Google Analytics, it changes the data that's here. So let's lowercase the campaign names. And again, this is really useful because if you start using those UTM parameters and anybody has access to them, they're going to screw up typing that stuff in. And this way, at least you can have some semblance of a standard. So we select custom, and you decide which field of recorded data you're going to change. So this is, Google is slowly recording all this data. It knows where this tag goes. So it's campaign name. And all we're going to do is lowercase it and save this value. I just selected it. So as simple as that, you're now standardized all of your Google Analytics reporting for campaign name. And you have to go through and do that all for medium and all that kind of stuff just to handle it. You should add all these filters to all your reviews that are going to be recording data if you can. We're going to add a second filter though, which is internal traffic. So at WVU, obviously we have a lot of current students who are looking at the website and they're going to go poke around. They really love to use our program pages to start figuring out, if they're undecided, they're going to use the program pages that are on admissions to figure out where they might want to go for the rest of their career. It's valuable data, but it's kind of muddies the water when most of our enrollment focus is out, right? So we can actually create a view that, or create a filter that makes sure that none of that internal traffic affects it. Now, if they're in an apartment somewhere, I'm not going to say nobody in Morgantown is going to be in this view, but at least for campus, we can remove them. So we're going to exclude people based on traffic from an IP address that begins with 157.182. So if you had the IP address of your internal network for your business or company and you want to make sure they weren't mucking up your analytics, you can totally take them out. So if you know people have your homepage set as their desktop homepage, you want to make sure that data is not there, right? That's all essentially fake hits. We get that with libraries are all set up to the WVU homepage. And so you're getting a lot of traffic you don't need to be recording. So we can save this. And so our test view has lowercase all the campaign names for standardization, and we've removed all the internal traffic. So again, this is a simple way of making sure that the view that you're looking at has the data that you actually need and want. Super simple. So again, there are 4 basic reports within the system. Audience, who came to our website. This is where you get your users from. We had this many users. Lots of details of geography and that kind of stuff. Acquisition, how do we get here? What channels are driving the traffic? This is probably my number one because I want to know, again, SEO, how we're doing. How individual campaigns are doing. I'm going to be looking in here, acquisition a lot. Behavior, what did they do? Which pages are they on? I'll use behavior pretty much just to look at a year-to-year trend. I don't really care about the total number of page views. I'm just curious how we're doing compared to the previous year. Just to make sure that we're doing kind of okay. Because I know that a year ago, our communication sucked. So I want to make sure this year now that we've been doing a lot of communications, that our traffic is beating last year's numbers, right? That kind of shows that we're doing a better job. And it's just a reality check. It's nothing I'm going to report on. It's something I'm going to say like crow about. But at least from a reality check, are we still doing kind of okay? And again, conversions, were they successful? This has some of the best details in it as long as you mark everything up with a UTM code. This basically is useless without doing the UTMs and setting up goals. But probably has the most power out of all of them. A dimension, because what you end up doing a lot with Data Studio is learning about dimensions versus metrics. A dimension is the what, it's the traffic source, it's a city, it's a page, it's a thing, and a metric is the number. So when you set up your reports in Data Studio, you're going to be comparing dimensions with metrics, or showing metrics that match dimensions. So if you're looking at columns, on the left-hand side, that's always your left-hand column is always your dimension. All the rest of it is metrics. And again, metrics are very much business or goal dependent. This is just coming back to that idea that vanity metrics are pretty much worthless. Hopefully goal conversions, so in the right-hand column there, I should have highlighted it. It says page value, so it gives a dollar amount. So we actually, for all of our goal conversions, we give a dollar amount. We give a value to that goal conversion. Because we know if you submit an RFI, you're X% likely to actually enroll in the university. And so we multiply that by the revenue we would get from you. And so that makes what an RFI is actually worth to us. So we can go into our goals and actually give a value. So we do that for RFIs and for clicking an application and all that kind of good stuff. And what's really interesting is you can start seeing which pages are actually important to conversions and which ones are worthwhile to you. Even if you start making up numbers, if they're within the realm of, they're not within the realm of possibility, but if they're, if you know an action's less likely than another one and you just give that a lower dollar amount, this will help you and start guiding you in terms of what content on your website is really important to helping people do the task that you want. So page value is really important. And there could also be, I probably cut off like goal conversions. This page had this many goal conversions. That's usually on the right-hand column, right-hand side. So yeah, page value. If you can add dollar amounts to any of your stuff, it's totally, totally worthwhile. And if anybody at WVU needs help with that, I would totally help you with that. Because we can go look at your data and see what, so if somebody did an RFI to Davis, through admissions, I can tell you how likely they are to actually enroll, and then you can give a dollar amount to them. If you're actually going to look at metrics, the important metrics to me are the engagement metrics. So looking at time on site, bounce rate, page depth, what are people actually doing on the website? How are they using it? Wherever the case may be. One of the big reasons for doing this is if you do a redesign and your page count drops, which is what happened to us, or actually one of the things that happened with admissions when we did a redesign was we made it a lot cleaner and a lot simpler to get from point A to point B, which meant less page views because they had less things to traverse. So if we just did vanity metrics and said our page views went down, everybody would go, oh shit, page views went down, which sucks. The reality was engagement went up, conversions went up, all those sort of engagement metrics went up. So that's why I think engagement is much, much more important than just pure users, pure page views, or whatever the case may be, because they may not be telling you the full story. And I think we learned that with admissions was people got stuck on things, and that's why we had relatively high page views. It wasn't actually saying anything. Oh, also, high bounce rate is not necessarily a bad thing. So if you have a page which has especially if they're coming from search, and has the information near the top, a high bounce rate might not be bad because they came, they saw, they got what they needed, and they left. They didn't need to see anything else. They came right to the thing and got it. So a bounce rate is not necessarily bad. You just have to be kind of critical about what you're looking at and thinking about what is happening. So in that scenario, a bounce rate might actually be good, a high bounce rate, because you want them to find their information. I want to show off a slight tangent. I've been showing this to multiple people on campus. But if you're looking for, so we have quantitative data. That's what Google Analytics is all about, quantitative data, numbers. But there's qualitative data. So yes, we can go run a survey. We can do a pop-up with a survey, and we start getting feedback. And that works. That's time. That's efforts. You only get like 5 responses. So one thing I would suggest in terms of getting qualitative data, if you can take the time, would maybe get a product like Hotjar. In our case, we use Full Story, and does web visitor recordings. So it is creepy. I will fully admit it's creepy. It feels like you're on somebody's shoulder. But you'll see how somebody actually uses your website. It's so much better than just looking at numbers. So I'm going to show an example. Oops, I guess I wasn't even in. So this is somebody who is on the home page. They're looking for a program. So now they're looking at a major map. Decided. Right, so that was just a one-page view, right? What do I get from one page view? Now you're seeing how somebody's actually using it. So they went to pathways. You're going to try to learn a little bit more. And so we've made little tweaks based on what we've seen in these videos, where somebody's like missing navigation, right? They didn't actually hit the navigation they wanted to hit. So they're going to figure stuff out. One of the things that we noticed was we didn't have the headings highlighted as links. And in the videos, you can see people trying to click, and they weren't getting anywhere. Full Story has rage clicks. It has broken clicks, all sorts of fun things that you can search by. So you can see where somebody was just super frustrated. They moved the mouse or whatever. They're called frustrated events. You can go watch their recordings and see like what could have caused an issue. And it's so much better than just pure analytics. So this is sort of a tangent. Full Story is super expensive. But a better service would be Hotjar. So you can just install it with Tag Manager and then watch recordings, record for like a day and then go back and watch them. It's a lot better setup. So there you go. Somebody spent a lot of time looking at programs. But it gives you an idea of what people are actually trying to do with your site. So I guess that would be my second takeaway from this would be thinking about using a service like Hotjar to do web visitor recordings to give you qualitative data about how your website's doing beyond just the quantitative data that you're getting out of this. So again, another basic thing would be segments. Segments allow you to compare how subsets of traffic are doing against one another. I guess this is a review. It's like I duplicated another slide. So basically we have accounts, properties, views, reports, metrics, meshes, segments. Any questions on those kind of things? No. Okay. Where are we at? 45. So the next level, and so that's all the basic stuff that you can do with Google Analytics. If you're going to go home tomorrow and do something, that's probably what you're going to end up doing. Setting up a filter, doing a segment, whatever the case may be. The next level thing is maybe taking advantage of a pre-built product in the Google Analytics Solutions Gallery. So you don't necessarily have to do all this stuff yourself. There's Solutions Gallery. This is the part that requires Chrome. You can use events. I think events are definitely a next level thing in terms of what you record and what you report on. And then goals and conversions. So the Solutions Gallery, for me, again, it only works in Chrome. It seems old and out of date to a degree, but the resources there are really useful. So what we're going to do is install a community solution from the Solutions Gallery, and then review how segments and reports work. So if you're following along, and I don't think anybody's following along, are you? That's totally okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. It's 2 hours, and I didn't know how much time I actually had. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to go look this Occam's Razor Awesomeness is the name of the product. We're going to import it into our view. Now it's view dependent. So when you import it, it's only on that one view. So if you want to pick one. We'll then add a segment, analyze data, and then review a report that comes with this. Oops. Tab. Skip. Solutions Gallery. Paste. Oh, so you can kind of see a whole bunch of stuff. Would recommend, if you have a problem in mind that you're going to be trying to solve with your goal, try going here first and see if you can find a dashboard that's already set up for you within Google Analytics at least. It might help you not have to reinvent the wheel and get things going. So when you want to use one, you just click import. Oh, I guess you can set any view that you want it to be on. Oh boy. I don't want to install it everywhere. Say test view 2. And it tells you, like, we're going to install these segments. It comes with a bunch of custom reports and one dashboard. It's from 2013, so some of it might not be great. Okay. So we go back in here. Oh, man. I busted something. Oh, well. This invariably happens. Okay. So, conceivably, we should have had all that stuff there. We're not going to. So instead, we can look at segments. So if you click here, and let's compare paid traffic to non-paid traffic. So this segments give you this ability to quickly analyze and see what the differences may be. And there are big ones. Let's change this one. So those big spikes, oops, cancel, are our emails. Forgot. So now we can start seeing how our paid traffic is doing versus our non-paid traffic. Where are they looking at? This is what segments give us this ability to start looking at. What the differences are, their bounce rate in non-paid, non-email traffic is a lot lower than paid, obviously. Somebody clicking through paid. Start looking at average session duration. Paid traffic is a lot less. Again, it just gives you this ability to, segments give you the ability to quickly compare how things are working or not working. Lots more new visitors with paid. So that's segments. So another next level will be events, and events measure user interactions with your content. So this is what things that you would set up in Tag Manager, and then you would go ahead and view in Google Analytics. Oops. So you can find events under behavior, and then there's a separate events section, and then you click overview, and you can start seeing the total number of events. If you're doing scroll tracking, you're gonna find there's like a gajillion events, because every scroll track is, every time somebody scrolls a certain length on the page, an event's gonna fire. So you can kind of ignore that. In our case, we're looking at the Find Your Major section. We're tracking when everybody pops in information in there and they hit submit, we save that search query. So that way we can go back and report and say, hey, is this a program being highlighted or not being highlighted? Number one program searched for. Any guesses? This one should be pretty easy. It's nursing. Nursing's number one at everything. Nursing's the most popular. Law is actually a really popular one to search for as well. It would be in the top 25% if it were a major. So an event is made up of 3 different parts. It has a category, it has an action, and it has a label. So in our case, we have set the category to be major search. The action obviously that's submitted, somebody submitted a form, so that's the action. And then the label that we're saving is we're saving a variable that is what this person actually searched for. So you can see we have event category, and you have a list of, we've had 1,000 searches for majors in a certain amount of time. And then we can sort by event label, and we can start seeing which ones are the most popular. Is anybody from Davis up there? No. Forensics, business, psychology. So this is what people are typing in when they're trying to find majors. Lots of careers. You get sort of really interesting insights. Lots of careers, lots of misspellings. Somebody searching for law, which we would consider a graduate program. We can go back and make sure, are we returning the appropriate undergraduate programs that lead to law? That kind of stuff. Professional programs are really popular for somebody to search for. So again, this gives us that qualitative data that we can go back and use and test our services against. So in this case, how's the search performing? Is it going to meet the user's needs? Conversions are a completed activity that is important to the success of your business. Goals, 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 goals. Conversions can be one of 4 types. A destination, so they got to a thank you page, right? So they submitted your RFI and they got to the thank you page. That's a conversion. That's how we'll track that conversion. You can use duration on the site if that's a goal of yours, is that somebody actually spent a certain amount of time. Pages or screens per session could be a goal completion, or event. I honestly only use destination and event. I wouldn't consider time on site or a number of pages important to my business. I don't see how they're valuable. I would never feed that back into AdWords necessarily. I could kind of see duration, possibly. But for the most part, I just use destination and event. And again, conversions, give your conversions values, because then you can start using those values to make decisions on which pages of content you want to update, which ones are important, and start learning the flow through your website. So we can see here that the how to apply section has a value of $264, which makes complete sense, because most likely somebody's going through how to apply to get to the first-time freshman page, which they actually click. And we give a big dollar amount to that application click. So the thing we're going to do is set up a goal and track conversions based on work earlier in the workshop. No one's following along. We probably didn't have goals. So it's okay. Yeah, you can hire me. Open your team. So we'll go through the profile. We'll go to test view. We'll select goals and set up a new goal. So this is the third thing that you should be doing out of this. What was my first thing? What was my first big takeaway? Now I'm completely blanking on what it was. Campaigns? Oh yeah, UTM was number 1. Thank you. So UTM, something else, and now goals, number 3. Did you guys enjoy lunch? Was it good? Which one should I get? I didn't actually pick one out, so hopefully there's one left. Roast beef? Okay. Okay, so we go back to the admin, wherever the admin is located in this view. And we can set up a goal. We set up a goal for a view. You can only have 20 goals in a view. So if you have more than 20 goals, you're going to have to spread them out a bit. So use an open slot here. I used to have a lot of goals, and I turned off a bunch because it turns out they weren't actually useful to me. And that's the thing. You'll learn. You'll set stuff up and go like, shit, this is a metric that has no meaning to me whatsoever. I thought it was going to be wonderful. So yeah, you'll definitely start and go. Okay, so set up a goal. No, we're not going to do custom. So I didn't even realize this was here because I haven't set this up forever. Woo. Okay, we're going to do custom though. Continue. The first goal, we're going to say submitted the contact us form, right? Because we want to know that somebody tried to talk to us, and that's essentially is an inquiry for us. So that's a destination. We want to track where they got the thank you page, right? They submitted the form, they always get to a thank you page. We always say, thank you for telling us, we'll talk to you in 24 hours, and really it's like a week. But we'll continue. So the destination is the URL of the thank you page. And we say it begins with. We can give it a value. We know that inquiries through this source tend to enroll at a rate of 2% or whatever the case may be, multiplied by an average tuition, and we're going to say that's $1.50. You can verify a goal, see if this is actually going to match anybody. So there you go. 0.14% of the traffic so far has done this in the last week. So we save it. And now you're tracking conversions. And you're tracking value. So now all you have page values are going to start coming in. You can start looking at your multi-channel marketing, see how all that stuff's working. So it's as simple as that. Super simple, setting up goals. 3 steps and you're tracking. And then when you go into AdWords and you start setting that stuff up, you just import that as an important goal conversion. And the other one we want to set up is an event. It's already selected. Oh, damn. And so we want to track those links out because we can't track somebody actually submitting the application. We're going to track the link, the click on a link to the application as a goal, right? So continue. Ooh, wow. Apparently I picked up an old one. So went to app. No, we don't want to use the event value. So we give this a $2,200 value. So we say the category is this, that has an action, whatever matches up, and then we save it. And again, now we're tracking another conversion. So when somebody clicks through an email and goes and does that thing, we can say this email generated this many clicks out to the application, which is a very important metric for us. Okay. So that's how you track goals. Oops. And the next thing you can do is look at multi-channel funnels. These are some of the coolest reports that you get out of Google Analytics. It shows how your marketing channels, whatever they may be, so search, social media, referrals, so somebody coming from another website, how they're working, how they work together. The multi-channel funnel reports are generated based on, also shows conversion paths, and shows you what led up to each conversion. And by conversion paths, I mean it's not what they did on your website, but what interactions they had with you via social media, via email, or whatever the case may be. What touch points did you have? So this is what the conversion value looked like a couple of days ago for undergraduate admissions. 1% of people who had converted on whatever the task may be, so that could have been going to schedule a tour, probably not applying, somebody clicking the academic deposit kind of thing, did all 4 of those things. They got referred from a website, they directly visited us, or they went through organic search, and they did email. So all 4 things, all 4 channels, they touched on to end up converting in the previous 30 days. So you can start seeing how those channels overlap or don't overlap. So referral really overlaps a lot with direct. So that's the bottom one there, kind of the beige one. Organic search also overlaps a lot with direct. So somebody probably searched us and then came back later and came directly to us knowing that's where they wanted to find the information. But this, again, gives you an idea of how these things interact with one another, where you should put your time and energy into improving, not improving. So let's see. There's also this top conversion paths report. So it'll show you very generically how these things work. So a lot of people came, in our case, that referral tends to be the WVU homepage. So somebody knew the brand, they went to the WVU homepage, they came to admissions, and they requested information, and they went to schedule a tour, whatever the case may be. But invariably, that's why referral is number one for us, because they're going to the main brand and then going to this subsite. Emails up there at number 5, paid search, 180 conversions. Yeah. And again, this is campaign parameters. If you're not familiar with it, it's that UTM source, UTM medium is the format you're using, campaign. Google has a lovely campaign builder if you just want to fill in a couple of fields and have it build the link for you so you don't have to remember all the things. It's really handy. And that bottom one is a link to our internal doc for how we do campaign naming. So maybe it'll give you a basic idea of how you want to go ahead and name your own. If you've worked enrollment, you'll recognize a bunch of the codes that we use. But it's really important to have the standard document if you're going to use campaign parameters and you have to hand it off to someone else. So you're all on the same page in terms of how you're naming things. So you can do this reporting really easily. So we have a standard campaign name that includes the type of student, their stage, and their entry term. So that way we can slice it and say, all the students with this entry term, how do they act? All the students who are first-time freshmen, how do they act? All the students at this stage, how do they act? And we could slice that up really easily. So definitely go ahead and do that. And it takes a lot of training and it takes focus to do it, especially on social to do all these campaign URLs. But it's not that bad. So the next thing would be, so that's the kind of like the intermediate level of things to do. The deep cuts would be like you can track pages with 404 errors. You can set up custom alerts. So instead of you going into Google Analytics all the time, Google can tell you when there's a problem. So we'll set up a custom alert for 404 pages. When you have too many 404 pages, it can email you and tell you you probably have a problem. Annotations and then benchmarking. So what we're going to do is set up a 404 report for your site. And then create a custom alert of when, I was going to say traffic increases, but I'll set it up for, you get a custom alert for 404s. So this one should be really simple if you're using Clean Slate in admissions at WVU. If you're using some other system, if you can make sure that your 404 pages always have a title that includes something that's always the same, like the number 404, this will help you. This will make it really, really easy for you to report on. You never know, they might not have it. Okay, so we want to look at behavior. We'll look at site content, and we have all pages. Okay, let's get rid of our segment. So this is all the pages, and it's by paths, and that's OK. But we can also look at this data via page title. So these are all the various titles. So regardless of path, of a page path, our 404 pages always return with the same title. That includes 404. So if you click on the page title, it gives you all the various paths that are currently throwing a 404 in the last, 30 days? Lots of things I can't actually fix. The PDFs I can't fix. This first one, somebody made a mistake in e-news, and everyone loves to click on this. This is and I can't redirect it, unfortunately, not in the server that we have. So unfortunately, people are going to keep getting that forever. So they can't see the latest tuition and fees. But that only affects like one e-news. But this, again, gives you an idea of what things you might want to go through and fix, because these are the problems. Why is it really important to fix a 404? Because if you move pages, Let's say we renamed one of the program pages because programs love to change their titles. So they changed their title. That old page had a certain level of page rank within Google, right? That had a certain rating. If you now only have a 404, that page rank that you've built up over time is just sitting there wasted. So if you find out that you're doing a 404 error for a page like that, that's kind of relatively important, a program page, you want to make sure you want to redirect it. So that way the page rank gets redirected to the new page, to the new name. And therefore, you're kind of taking advantage of all that work you've done in the past and moving it. So is that like the fourth or fifth important thing? Always redirect. Never let things sit under 404. Always redirect. Find good redirects. Because you're giving up value that you've built with Google over time. And Google is going to be your number one source of, not your number one source of traffic, but it's going to be up there. So don't give it up for free. So it's kind of annoying to have to click through all that stuff all the time, right? So we can save this as a report. Enter a name for this, pages 404. So now if you want to go check on your 404 pages, we have it as a saved report. You can just go ahead, click Saved Reports. It'll give you a list of saved reports, which is this pages 404. And now I can quickly glance through it. So you can do this once a week. Is there a problem, not a problem? Go ahead and fix it. And there may be things like us we can't fix. It sucks, but we can't fix them. Okay, so that was saved reports. And now we can go ahead and create a custom alert. So this is just for you. There's no, I'm going to recreate this. This is for the signed in user, and the signed in user will get the custom alert. So 404 errors, take 2. So we're going to look at a particular view. So you can set up a view that's going to be related to it. We're going to look at the period that in this case, the errors happen. So every day we're going to look, and we're going to say, send me an email. And you can select all the emails. Now you got my personal email. You got my personal number. You can send you a text message. It's totally not useful. Don't opt into this. It all gets truncated, unfortunately. So you get like, there was a problem, ... Google Analytics. So, yeah. So don't opt into that. It sounds like wonderful. I can get a text alert and I'll go act on it. But you don't get anything useful. So unless you only have like one custom alert, unfortunately I have like 20 in here. When page views, oh shoot, I gotta go look this up. Shit. Had this written down. Oh well, we'll give up on it. Only got 22 minutes. But the basic idea is you would set this up saying, when pages have this title and they're 20 page views, send me an alert. So that way if you change something, the very next day, if there's something really broken, you're going to get an alert that something's broken. It's 24 hours, that sort of sucks, but at least you have kind of a backup, something monitoring for you that there's a problem. You don't have to do this all yourself and always going into Google Analytics, go into Google Analytics, go into Google Analytics. You can have Google Analytics do things for you. You can look at when direct traffic drops, when there's a spike in traffic, when there's a problem with a particular page. It's a really handy way, again, of being able to walk away from Google Analytics and know that everything's being taken care of. That if there really is a problem, you'll find out about it. Okay. There we go. Any questions about Google Analytics? It's a wonderful tool. Okay. Data Studio with 20 minutes left. So the basics of Data Studio is you end up having a report. A report can have multiple pages. And on a page, obviously, you can have multiple charts. It's one of the nice things about the report is that you can do something like we've done in the past, an email report that had a page that reported on overall traffic, and then subpages that reported on the individual segments that we wanted to monitor and see what they were actually doing on their own. So you could duplicate the big report and then have multiple pages. So we're going to set up a data studio to the demo spreadsheet. So this is one of the nice things about Data Studio, just like Tag Manager or Google Analytics, it has defaults. So we can say, like, I don't want to really recreate a report of web traffic. So we can copy a report, and basically what this new data source is doing is looking at all of your Google Analytics properties that you want to import, and you choose the one that you want, and you copy it. Got it. And now you have a Data Studio report that is using your data with some really basic metrics on it. There wasn't any work that you had to do yourself. So that's adding a data source. That's getting a report up and running. If you want to go back and do it tomorrow, you'd have it up and running. Really quick look. So here we're going to use a template. We did that. You can actually add multiple data sources to a report, and they can be outside the Google product. So if you want to do a reporting of how your paid search was doing, and that's obviously going to be more than Google AdWords. You're probably going to use Facebook, you're going to use LinkedIn or whatever. You can import all that data and report in one dashboard how all of your paid advertising is doing. You don't have to go to each individual resource and say, this is what LinkedIn thinks, this is what whatever thinks. You can bring them all together. It does cost a little bit of money. The Facebook one, I think, I don't remember how much it costs. But it's not getting it from Facebook directly. You're getting a third party to do it for you. Again, this is what makes Data Studio more powerful than just the dashboards in Google Analytics. It's being able to link all these different sources. So we're going to add a filter and use a segment. So we can look at our report. I'm in the wrong thing. So we can go into report settings if it clicks correctly. And you can add a filter, and we can say email only. So we know we have this as a campaign source or a campaign medium. So we're only going to include any traffic that had the campaign medium email. So now your entire report and all of the various charts are going to be filtered by this one thing. So all these charts are now only showing the email traffic to your website. Yes, I was wrong. Segment. And you can also add a segment. Oh, this is not going to work at all. Oh, we could. So Google Analytics has segments. And so if you create a segment in Google Analytics, you can also use it all over here. So we're going to say you're on an email and you're on a tablet. And so now I can go to my VP and share this really important report to her of people who are on their tablets who came from email and what they did, because that's a critical goal for us. Okay. So again, it's pretty straightforward. We can add a chart. If you wanted to, select the map chart, change the dimension. Maybe I'll just go ahead and play. That's not what I wanted to do. Want a map. You can take the map. Oops. And you can change what kind of data you're showing on the map. You can show average user timing, how much time they spent on a site, or maybe not. Let's show page views. New users. You could change you can show North America only. You can show regions. But again, it's all this point and click to set up this chart, right? There's not a whole lot of detail trying to do it. You can change your style. Background color of orange. You can make it look as pretty or as ugly as you want to. But again, it's this idea of point and click. That's the common theme throughout all the Google products. From Tag Manager through this, it's all point and click. You can all do this yourself. You don't have to do a whole lot of configuration. Setting up a report definitely takes time, but it's doable. If you want, I'm going to skip ahead. If you want some inspiration in doing this stuff, there actually are, whatever. I'm a Safari user, so I default to Safari. So you can go look at somebody else's Data Studio report and actually copy it. So if you go through the gallery and you're like, that's exactly the way I want to represent my CPC project, you can go ahead and do it. It's really, really handy, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The other thing that I would urge you to do if you get into this and want to do a custom report is literally sketch it out by hand on a piece of paper first and go, this is how I think it should look and how it should flow, and then go ahead and put it together. If you get into Data Studio and try to drag things around, it works, but it's a little awkward. So spend a little bit of time on paper before you get into Data Studio. And again, connect those Data Studio reports back to the goals that you had originally. So there should be sections that is like, this answers this goal. These are all the metrics for this goal. And this is why it works or it doesn't work. And I really didn't cover Data Studio. We're running out of time. So it's also not much you can do with it. So are there any questions about Data Studio and how to use it? Okay. Yes, ma'am. So the question was, there's a problem with Supermetrics and getting things to update, possibly in Data Studio, and do I have any recommendations? And the answer is no, because I haven't had to do that. I would be happy to sit down and poke at it and maybe be a different set of eyes on the problem after this, if you want to sit down and do that. Any other questions about Data Studio? I'm really focused over here. I'm sorry. I feel like I ignored you for 2 hours. So again, the Google workflow, this connected set of tools that pumps data all through each other and really helps you measure and determine if you're achieving the goals that hopefully you or your management have. If you spend a little bit of time with Tag Manager, you can get really detailed. Analytics will get you that reporting. And Data Studio helps you share that with your management team. Essentially an always-on report if they want to go check things. Not that they would, because they're management, but they actually have the opportunity to do that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for coming. This has been a great crowd. It's a much, much bigger crowd than I expected. I totally was not expecting this many people, so this is fantastic. Are there any questions in general about life? Yes?
I have a question in Google Analytics.
So the question was setting up pages with page value essentially based on the clicks on ads. Is that the idea?
Click on ads just for that page. So, for example,
Oh, okay. I got an idea.
advertising on our weather page,
Right.
and I can say that one page view is worth 3 cents.
Okay. Yeah. So I would actually have to poke at it to see if it would work the way I would think it would work. But you could take either you could do impressions, which is kind of a poor way of doing it. But if you're really looking at that somebody took an action on an ad on the weather page, right? So they clicked and went to Jimmy Bob's Asphalt, whatever. It's probably a real company. It's got to be a real company. You probably could track that click, yes, and then give the value. I know I'm not giving you like the best answer, but I think it's totally doable.
It's not necessarily people clicking on that because, I mean, I care, but I don't care because I'm selling those.
Yeah, you're selling the location.
Yeah, the location.
Yeah.
Like a share of voice on that page. And that's just, I just want to know if I could set that up, like assign a value to just a page.
Yes. Yeah, you totally could. Yep. Yeah, you can assign a value to a page view. Any other questions? I guess with that, class dismissed. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.